And then there was actually this one day where I felt like really kind of like made my mind switch. I was so broke that I had to call my friend to bring me, like drive, because we didn't have money transferring back then. So I had to tell her to drive to me, give me $10 so I could put gas in my car. And I just like told myself, like, I never want to be this broke again. And I never want to like have to go through this again.
Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode on the Divinely Disruptive podcast. I'm your host, Jane Powers. If this is your first time tuning in, I'm so happy you found us. This podcast is all about leveling up your life and creating space to dream again. Today, we have a very special woman in the studio. She's not only an influencer, model, you've probably seen her in the import scene, and she's newly a mom and truly inspiring, one of the most humbling women and sweet, nurturing soul that I've ever met. Welcome, Janis, to our studio. Thank you for being here.
Hi.
Yes. Thank you. Tell us a little bit about you, and for people who haven't met you yet, just a quick little bio.
So a little about me. I am from Portland, Oregon. I grew up there all my life. And then I actually moved to Seattle when I was around 19 years old. So I've kind of jumped around places too, because I also lived in Vegas and then moved back to Oregon for a little bit. And now I'm in Vegas again. Been in the beauty industry for a long time and a new mom now, like you mentioned. So yeah.
Thank you for making it. Yeah, I know it's a busy time in your life. You have a couple businesses, and I know you have a beautiful daughter. I was able to meet her, and so she's just like a ball of energy. I wonder where she gets that from. But yeah, tell me a little bit too, just about what it's like juggling as a mom, because just seeing you right now, you're so put together, like full face glam. I know you did a photo shoot today as well. So what is it like being a new mom and trying to juggle businesses too?
Honestly, I feel like even though I am doing so much, it almost just like you just get into that mode, like there's no excuse to not be a mom. Like you just kind of make it work. But I'm a planner too. So like making lists really helped me. Like, what do we need to do? Even putting my boyfriend on lists, because he's pretty like a procrastinator and like that. So I don't know, just kind of like, you know, becoming a mom, I feel like it's just, like I said, like you just kind of go into that mode and there's just no like excuse to why you can't do this or that. You know what I mean? You just kind of make it work. So
well, you are definitely an inspiration, because I've been with my man for like 7 years. And again, when I had the opportunity to come to your home, get to know you and your daughter, I'm like, oh, like seeing you so natural. And I know you mentioned you want to have more kids. I'm thinking, dang, I hope that I could get to that mental headspace to be able to have a kid and have multiple businesses, because I've always been a black sheep in my family and an overachiever. So work came first, business came first, and I never even thought about marriage or family. And now seeing like modern day women juggle both, it's really fascinating. Where did you get your inspiration to be such a good nurturer and a good mom? Because I feel like you've done this before, but it is your first time having a child. But like, where did you learn how to be so patient?
Patient. I definitely learned how to be more patient now that I have a baby. But ever since I was little, actually, you can ask my mom, I've always loved babies. Like even when I was like a toddler, I was wanting to hold the baby. So if you ask her, she's like, yeah, Janis always wanted to be around babies and like hold them and all that stuff. But also just like seeing how my family grew up, and then like my grandparents, my grandma had 10 kids. So, and then my mom, she was a good mom too. And like, she didn't really show us love in a way that like, I guess modern, Americans would want, but there were ways that she showed us love where I feel like that's where I learned it from. And then also from my grandma, like how grandma on my mom's side, by the way, just how like nurturing she was and like how loving she was. And just growing up in a big family, like I wanted that for myself too.
So precious. Thank you for sharing. And I know a lot of people say it takes a village to raise a kid. And even myself, you know, I'm 33, so I'm at that age where I'm not a child, but I'm mature enough to have a family. But for me, I told my husband, I'm like, I need to build a village. I need to have like an army, because I know I'm going to have meltdowns, and I know I'm going to have moments where, you know, things don't end up the way I wanted it to. So would you say you're a perfectionist, or would you say you're easy to adapt with the flow?
I feel like a little bit of both, because I'm definitely not perfect, even though I try as hard as I can to be, like making sure we're on time or like doing things this way or that way. So I feel like also having that flow will help the balance, you know, of getting things done. Because I feel like if you're too much of a perfectionist, you just kind of, it gets boring almost. And then when you go with the flow, you know, better things may come along the way and like make things easier. So
no, and I love that, because growing up I played competitive golf, very Korean of me, but I started like very young, and I was so OCD, such a perfectionist, and I'm like, no wonder I'm so rigid sometimes. So I'm learning to be more go with the flow and adapt to change. And I've learned the people that I'm drawn to, they're not like me. So I was telling Nick, my husband too, I'm like, I really like Janis. She's just so sweet and so kind. And I know that we finally met in real life not too long ago, but I love that we have so many mutual friends and mutual connections. So instantly I felt, okay, I can trust her. I feel a little more comfortable because, you know, moving back to Vegas, I've been here 2 years. It's not really easy to make good friends, especially if you don't know anybody. So that brings up the topic of just trying to make friends, trying to fit in. Like, how did you navigate life in Vegas and building friendships out here?
I mean, it was definitely hard, I feel like, to find the friends that I could like hang out with and like even just go eat with. You know, like usually the friends out here, it's people who I party with. And then when you're partying with them, you're kind of in a different state of mind. You're not, you know, always sober, and like you're in a big setting, so you don't get like that one-on-one time. But I guess having, you know, like my job also kind of helped like finding genuine people, because usually, not to say anything bad about like industry people, like I'm not at all, but usually like with industry people, they're just the people that you see when you're partying. And like with my clients, it's a little different because you actually get to talk to them, and it's like more one-on-one time. So I feel like I was able to make friends with like my clients, and then even like my party friends that became my clients, that's who I became close to, because I got to know them on like a different level versus just partying. So
no, and you brought up a good, you know, point too. I feel like the older and mature we get, we really do bond through our hobbies, talents, and work. Because even for me, I feel like we will continue to bond through work, right? I do content creation. I have this podcast. So even for me, you get this intimate moment with me to sit, you feel my presence, you know what I'm about. And so the podcast wasn't created just for me, but it's a way for me to get to know more people, and people watching and listening. Now they get to know Janis like on a deeper level, because you're more than just a beautiful face. And I remember before I met you, I was telling Nick, I'm like, she looks so familiar. She's like a supermodel. She's really hot. And she has a kid. What the heck? But really, you're just such a breath of fresh air. And I think it's important to love what you do so much that you ultimately end up building relationships long term. And so I know I made it very clear, like, hey, Janis, if you choose to collaborate and partner with me, I don't want this to be just transactional. Even this podcast, I hope to do this till the day I die. And I want to just continue to interview great people, great leaders, and hopefully even through the podcast, you'll be able to connect with people that are on the podcast. So let's talk a little bit about what you do currently, and what do you love most about what you do?
So I am a permanent makeup artist and a lash artist. So I run a shop in Portland, Oregon, where I actually opened my shop. And then here in Vegas, since I moved back, I have a studio with my friend Jan. And we're just sharing right now until we can hopefully someday open a shop here as well. So maybe 2 locations in the future. But yes, that's what I do right now. And then I forgot your second question.
No, you're very humble. But I was saying, what do you love most about what you do?
Oh, yeah. So what I love most about what I do is I've always loved like the reaction of people when you're done like doing their makeup, or like after you do tattoo their brows or their lips or their eyeliner, like how they just look so happy and like literally even crying too, because they're just so happy with how they look. So I just love like I can make and help people feel more beautiful and kind of feel like the best version of themselves. So and even with just like the magic of my hands, so changing lives one brow at a time is what I say.
No, I love it. And you're very meticulous, because I saw you work on a client and you're very quick, but I love that you're, again, so nurturing, even when you are mapping out the brows. Again, I'm not a professional in your industry, but I can just see how you really take time to be very detailed, allow the client to understand, okay, this is the direction we're going. How do you like it? And being a retired beautician as well, I can tell when somebody actually cares about their client or if they're just trying to make money and get them out of the door. So even just watching you, taking care of a client, you have such details in your hands. So I'm so happy that this is the lane that you're pursuing. And, most people may not know this, but I understand you were also in the import scene when you were younger. Car shows. Again, I was a little young, but I remember my brothers were drooling over these import models. And I'm like, what's that? And I grew up super Christian in the church, very conservative. So my mom's like, you're going to be fully dressed playing golf. But there was this fantasy side of me that was like, wow, especially being Asian American, it felt so empowering to see other Asian women kind of taking charge and ownership. So again, it's a world that I will never experience, but what was that world like in the import scene in cars?
It was, honestly, when I look back at it now, I just think like, wow, like not to brag or anything, but it was pretty awesome because I was able to travel all over the US and I was on the cover of 2 magazines. I met tons of people, like, and it's just kind of crazy to see like people who you don't even know like look up to you and I was just posting and posing in front of cars. So it was just kind of like a pretty surreal like time of my life. And like I was even able to host clubs internationally, like in Australia. So that was just so awesome to kind of like look back like, whoa, like I did all this all from import modeling, which is crazy because import modeling kind of has like a bad name to it too compared to like the supermodels. So, but like just thinking back, like why is it looked down upon? Because I was able to do all these things that you guys can do too, but like in a different way and like in a more fun way, I would say.
Gosh, and how does one get there? Because a lot of people watching and listening, I have a very diverse audience. Let's say she's young and she's beautiful, she's confident. How does one even enter into the import modeling scene?
I feel like it's so different now though compared to when I was starting, because when I started, it was like Tumblr days and there was actual magazines where we worked hard to be on those covers. Now it's a little different. I feel like everyone's just trying to get a check mark on their Instagram or something or get brand deals, which is great, but I feel like it's just so different now. So I don't know if I can give the best advice like for the aspiring people now, but car shows are still going on. So that's one thing, just messaging the car shows, asking if they have model lounges and starting there. So starting at car shows, starting with doing photo shoots too with reputable photographers though. So don't just shoot with anyone, I would say. But just kind of getting yourself out there. Because if you're just, always wondering like, oh, how can I, be an import model? Like, what do I need to do? But you're not actually like doing it, like getting pictures, like reaching out to car shows. You're not really going to be successful in that way.
Man, now in your experience, was there any celebrities or famous people or just people that you can't imagine meeting in real life? Because I'm sure you were given opportunities and platforms, like you mentioned, traveling, hosting clubs outside of the US. Have you ever ran into someone where you're like, I can't believe I'm in the same room with you?
I would say, I've definitely met kind of like celebrities from a distance, but I would say what really like got me starstruck is meeting all the YouTubers. So, for example, like I got opportunities to meet like Timothy Delgado and like AJ Raphael is another person. Just many other YouTubers that I was able to meet and like now have become, mutual or acquaintances with. So that was pretty cool.
What is Tim like? Because I actually watch him. Again, I'm Asian, so I can't help it. But he's so freaking funny. And I actually watched him before he blew up. I mean, now he's a parent, but I saw him originally on Wild 'N Out.
Yeah.
But, even if it was from a distance, like, was he as funny as you thought?
He's literally like, when I first met him, it was in Hawaii at a car show event. We were all eating dinner together. And I literally, when he was talking, I felt like I was watching a YouTube video. Like he's exactly the same how he is in video. So.
Oh, shoot. Okay. Maybe if you meet him again, let me know. Like he's one of my like comedy crushes. Yeah. And we share that Asian bond. So when you talked about traveling too, I mean, I'm sure you've had countless destinations that you were able to go. I grew up super sheltered, so I have like a huge bucket list of places I want to go. What were maybe even like the top 3 places you had the privilege of traveling to, and why?
Definitely Australia. That was cool because first, it's really expensive. So I wouldn't even, at the time when I was going, like I was definitely super broke. So being able to be flown out to be there and just like exploring another country was awesome. And just being taken care of there. Like the people there are so nice and there's just so much to do there. Second would be probably Vietnam. I've been there once. So I definitely want to go again with my mom, which is where she's from. But Vietnam was amazing, just kind of like seeing how my mom grew up and like just the different culture, how it is here. Because we were raised like Asian American and it's completely different how my parents were raised. And then third is probably I actually was able to go on a yacht tour in Croatia. So that was pretty cool too.
Dang, that's like Instagram dreams.
Yeah.
I'm like, I have not been there yet, Nick. That's on my bucket list.
Yeah, for yacht week. Yeah, it was crazy.
Oh my God. Please tell me you documented it too.
Oh yeah. Yes. It's on my highlights and all that. So
is there any places that maybe you weren't able to travel through that world? What would be on your bucket list of like destinations you do want to go to?
So apparently I've been to China when I was like 3, but I don't remember anything, of course. So I definitely want to travel to China one day because that's where my dad is from. So, just want to visit his village and see the culture there. And so my daughter is also, she's 75% Chinese. My boyfriend's from Shanghai. Or his family's from Shanghai. So I want our daughter to also be able to, learn about a majority of her culture and just kind of, explore where our parents came from.
Yeah. Wow. I love that. So pretty much what I can hear from is you have a beautiful blend of Chinese, right? From your father's side, and then Vietnamese from your mother's side. No wonder you're a beautiful blend. I was like, I don't want to judge. I'm like, are you Filipino? Not really.
Everyone
you don't look full one way, right?
Everyone thinks I'm Filipino.
Yeah. And on a good day, you could look Korean. Yeah. Like you have nice round eyes. So, growing up, tell me what it was like to, have those different cultures, because being Asian American is already tough. We have these battles of following the Asian ways and then trying to still be hip and cool with American culture, but especially Chinese and Vietnamese. What, like, if you recall, what was that like growing up with different cultures, and how has it molded you into the person you are today?
So my mom is Vietnamese, my dad's Chinese. Growing up, it was definitely hard because, both of them were very traditional. So there was like a very hard, like strict Asian household. My parents also divorced when I was young. So I think I was like 7 years old. So actually that was pretty hard because my parents met in English school, by the way. I know a lot of people ask, like, what am I more of? But I'm literally 50-50 of each. But when my parents divorced, they both kind of started hating each other and hating each other's ethnicities. So I was very confused when I was younger because, my mom would say one thing and then my dad would say one thing. And then it just confused me and my younger sister, like, what side do we go with? And like, what language do we speak? And so it wasn't easy, like growing up with both cultures. But now that I'm older, like, they're fine now. They're cordial with each other. They're not hating each other anymore. but I was able to learn how to like appreciate both of my cultures because I feel like I'm very lucky to be able to experience Vietnamese and Chinese side and like both foods. Like they both cook amazing food. And, you know, some people like, I know this sounds mean, but like you guys only get stuck with one culture and I get like two. So I feel like as I got older, I was really able to embrace both sides of my, ethnicities.
Yeah. Man, no, that's so beautiful. And again, people listening and watching, the cool part is everyone used to say, oh, I'm this or that. But, the whole DNA testing, I don't want to even butcher the name. It's like 43andMe or 23andMe. I don't even know. Yeah. I'm like, I don't even know what number it is anymore. But I'm honestly scared to take it because I don't want to find out that maybe I do have bits and pieces from things I didn't even know, because I'm definitely Korean, but I don't know. I was just like the lucky Asian that grew up with darker skin. And even my husband's like, yeah, you get really dark in the summer. I'm like, I know. I don't know where it came from. And then my sister's like very light skinned Korean. So sometimes I'm looking at my mom like, are you hiding something? But I think we're all mixed with more cultures than we know. And it's not always even blood. It could be environmental as well. So I like that you're kind of subtly saying, hey, Jane, even if I did, grow up in a broken home or a divorced home, Asians, we like to have a lot of pride. So we always like to sit pretty, act pretty. But the reality is, when I say divorce, even broken home, it's not negative. I feel like a lot of people have brokenness. We just have to learn how to process it and, figure out what good did we gain from. And so I'm firm in all about like perspective shifts. Like it happened for us, not to us, right? So just even getting to know you now, it's like, wow, you would never know that you had that experience as a kid, because part of the reality of life is I want to expose there's light even in darkness. Like I don't ever try to act better than anyone. And even through my own trauma, whether it's parents, family dynamics, friendships, jobs, it's like, well, we can't just be a victim forever. So I love the way you carry yourself and just, I don't know, like people that would engage with you, you don't act like a victim in any way. Yeah. And just seeing you as a mom, like, girl, like very proud of you. That's why sometimes I just have to send you a text like, good job, have a good day. I'm proud of you, because Asian culture, especially my mother, like she worked absolutely so hard to put all 4 kids in school, played golf. So I can't complain, but I wish I could hear the words, I love you, or good job, daughter, or you look so beautiful. And I grew up kind of stereotypical, like, do better. Why you fat? Why you eat so much? Eat more. You look so skinny. It's like, they didn't mean it that way, but it did affect me now that I'm older. So did you ever have a time too, just as a daughter, where maybe you wanted something from your mom and you didn't get it? Like, how was that for you too?
I mean, definitely exactly like what you're saying. Like traditional Asian parents, they never were nurturing. They never like complimented us or like said, I love you. And I think, I was able to kind of like get through it. And like, I think that's why I am the way I am today, like just a stronger woman. But like, I mean, for sure it affected my little sister, like to not hear like, I love you and all those things. But, now that I know that having that when I was younger, it's why I want to like be there for my daughter and like be able to say those things and like give her the things that I didn't get. So,
man, no. And I know that's like an emotional subject too, because like even when I met your daughter, now you can tell why I'm like just suffocating her with my love. I'm like, you child, I don't have a kid, but I'm like, I just want to love on her, because it is a very sensitive, awkward dynamic when you show up as a nurturing mother or you show up as a nurturing sister, friend, mother, but nobody really showed us that. Yeah. Right. Even for me, people are like, you're so expressive. You're so articulate. You're so aggressive. And I'm like, yeah, because I grew up so numb. Like, I'm like, I don't know. Am I enough? Like, should I do more? So, there's always good and bad from everything we've experienced. If you could kind of share with us too, growing up the way that we did as Asian Americans, like how do you see it manifest now? Like good and bad qualities?
I mean, the bad is definitely trauma, right? Like now we're just trying to break that generational trauma. So, I mean, the good, I feel like it's because, well, they're learning. So I feel like that's good. They are now like understanding the American culture, like what we want. Because now my parents like tell me congratulations and that they love me and that like my mom will compliment me here and there. So the good is also knowing what I don't want and also like teaching my daughter the better way of like having a better relationship type of thing.
Yeah.
So,
well, that's special. And I feel like sometimes the best parents, the best friends, the best leaders, it's almost like we learn from knowing what it feels like to not have it. Because one of my particular goals through the podcast is to travel the world, interview amazing people. And one might say like, well, Jane, who do you think you are to be a podcast host? Or who do you think you are to go travel the world and interview people? It's like, no, I think for me, I have so much empathy and compassion and understanding of what it feels like to not be seen or to not be heard. So, you know, I'm not just jumping on the podcast trend because everybody else is doing it. This is actually something I've been manifesting for many years in my life, even before I met, you know, Nick, the producer and the director of the podcast. So for me, I've learned the power of manifestation and just believing in yourself is so important. And people who have met me or they discovered us on the podcast, I always tell people, I believe in a higher power that I call God, but I don't call myself a religious individual because I want to just be a positive light where I can invite all walks of people to have a chance and an opportunity to show up for themselves and show up for me, right? I'm kind of intense in that way because I've had some dark moments where I'm like, okay, is there a purpose for my life? Sometimes life gets hard and you think, oh, I just want to like go disappear. And the older we get, it's like if we don't hold on to our belief and these positive visions and dreams, I get it. Like, what is the point of living, right? Yeah. So for me, I feel like manifestation, believing in yourself is very important. For you, have you seen, you know, aspects of your life where that self-belief, that manifestation has changed your life?
Yes. And actually, I was introduced with manifestation years ago, and ever since, what's that, the law of attraction, what is it called? I can't remember, but you know what I'm talking about, the book, and there's actually like
it's a secret, something like that,
you know what I'm talking about. But ever since I watched that, that's what started like my manifestation and like positive, you know, being more positive journey. And I definitely feel like it works. Like, you can't just live in your life with like a dark cloud like over your head and like just being negative all the time, because you're gonna attract that. So I feel like everything that has happened in my life is because I manifested it. Like, I accidentally manifested my baby. I'll say that because I was telling myself, I'm ready for the next step of my life. Like, I want to be a mom soon. And then next thing you know, bam, I was pregnant. So, and then for example too, so I teach classes in Seattle with my training partner, Eileen, and we talk about manifestation a lot and like our why and all these things. And during the time I was manifesting really hard, like I wanted to be debt free. I wanted to own a Porsche, which is the car that I have now. And I wanted a loving boyfriend. So I wrote all these things on a sticky note and put them all over my room. And 3 of those things, there was probably like 5 notes or something, but 3 of those things I have achieved, which I found my loving boyfriend and I was debt free, and I got my car, which is crazy because a Porsche is not cheap. So that was like my biggest accomplishment that look back, I'm like, holy crap, all these things that I wished for and like prayed for, it's here. So I definitely feel like it really works. And you know, you gotta just live positively. I mean, of course, you're gonna have negative thoughts here and there and just, you know, sad days. But as long as you kind of like look back on your blessings and, you know, why you're really living for and what you're living for, then I feel like, you know, good things will come.
No, and I'm so happy that you shared that, because recently I've been all about mindset, and I used to dabble in manifestation and then I got really stubborn. I'm very impatient, and I tell everybody, I don't just blame my Korean blood, but it's just I want it now. And that's why my journey as a makeup artist was so fulfilling. It was instant gratification, right? You do your work and then they see it and they tell you, oh my God, I look so beautiful. It was like, oh, I love it. But patience for me has been a struggle, and no wonder God is probably just watching over me like, hey, until you gain patience and know how to be patient, I'm not going to give you everything. Again, I'm sure as a parent, as your daughter gets older, it's like you want to give her the world, but you also want to make sure she learns basic life lessons, basic life, things that every human needs, like kindness, empathy, patience. But I jumped into manifestation and then jumped out of it because I just got so frustrated, because sometimes we have these visions and deadlines, but then that time or that year comes around and it's like, oh my gosh, why am I still behind schedule? And I remember in my first episode, I don't know if you saw it yet, but I just had a meltdown and cried. And I was like, oh, I did not expect that, because I am so positive. I am very sharp with my mind, but sometimes I needed a moment to just release whatever I was really feeling, because we're really good at showing up, showing face, and just pretending everything's fine. But in that moment of release and working on myself, getting therapy, finally I realized for me to have space to manifest, to have space to dream again, I'm like, okay, that's when magic really happens, is when you get all the bullshit out, all the distractions out. Now you can actually look and move forward with clear vision. So this might be a personal question and you can share what you want, but has there been a moment in your life too where you were in a really dark place and maybe you were surrounded by the wrong people and allowing distractions in your life?
Yes. So when I moved to Seattle at 19, I, didn't have any savings. I moved there for a job as a makeup artist. I actually worked at Jean Ores. So
no wonder you're on point.
Yeah. And I mean, I was young and I was partying a lot, and not a lot of people know this. I'm going to share it. I actually got a DUI when I was 20 years old. So that was definitely like a hard time in my life. And I also didn't want to tell my parents, because of course they're going to try to make me move back home to Oregon, which is where I was born and raised. And so, I was really struggling to try to get myself together and just, try my hardest to stay there and like not let my parents find out, what I did, because I mean, of course I was like super ashamed, and I was only 20 years. Actually, I was 19, I think 19 or 20. I can't remember, but got super broke because I had to pay all those fees, and I didn't have any money, and I was going to debt and just like couldn't even get credit cards because my credit was so low. And then there was actually this one day where I felt like really kind of like made my mind switch. There was this one day I was so broke that I had to call my friend to bring me, like drive, because we didn't have money transferring back then. So I had to tell her to drive to me, give me $10 so I could put gas in my car. And I just like told myself, like, I never want to be this broke again. And I never want to like have to go through this again, like this DUI and like all this party and getting into trouble. Like I was only 19, 20 years old. And I was working at like a reputable company, and I had to tell my manager like what happened because I had no one to go to. So, and at that time, of course I didn't want anyone to know about what happened. But I feel like now being able to share it comfortably, it's going to like teach people a lesson to like, don't let these things distract you, like partying, boys, especially. That was my biggest distraction for sure. And I'm pretty sure I got the DUI because of a boy. So, if I could talk to my younger self, and just for all those younger viewers out there, or even now, like if you're a heavy drinker or whatever, like just be more responsible, focus on yourself, and, don't let these distractions get in your way. So,
yeah, no. And thank you for sharing too, because like the reality is when you have these secrets or these life experiences that you try to hide, it almost eats you alive inside, because again, maybe not. People think I'm like an angel, but I've been fired from a lot of jobs. I've cursed out bosses, and I just had a lot of like anger that allowed me to have very bad results in my career path. But honestly, even you taking courage to share, like, thank you very much, because, a lot of people, I could just sense it. they have some secrets, especially after the pandemic, after COVID. And I'm sure it's things that they are not proud of, but sometimes we make decisions and it leads to results we're not proud of, but sometimes we're not even aware. It could be toxic friendships, toxic boyfriends, or just relationships that aren't good for you, because why the heck would we even allow ourselves to end up in a situation if people are looking out for us, right? Or if they really care, they should be like, hey, maybe take an Uber or just stay home. But again, when you're young, we all make mistakes. But the point is, we live and learn, we grow from it. Because even for me last year, I got really trapped in like this dark cycle, and especially being new to Vegas, I just wanted to make friends, and I went to school in Oregon, so maybe that's why we connect too, like spiritually. But I was just a hippie, like fun loving, and I just want to be everybody's friend, because why the heck not? And I know our mutual friend, Kayla, connected us. Shout out to Kayla. Thank you for bringing us together. But even her, she's like, you know, my old coworker, she's like, Jane, you're always going out of your way to check in with everybody. Like, do you even check in with yourself? And I'm like, whoa, okay, that's a little too personal. But the point is, I would entertain toxic friends. I would entertain toxic social scenes. I would drink and drink and drink. And I wish a friend would be like, hey, Jane, that's enough. Like, didn't you say you were going to go home at 1 a.m.? Like, probably cool down, drink some water. But when you're around people that aren't really, you know, paying attention or self-aware of themselves and other people, we can go down a very bad, dark spiral, right? So thank God. I mean, I sound wacky saying this, like, thank God it's just a DUI, but really thank God you're alive, because it really could have been worse. And, you know, even my husband, he's like, Jane, I don't care about you being out in Vegas and partying and doing stuff. Just be safe, be responsible. Don't drink and drive. Like, it sounds so stupid, like Asian Tiger Mom being like, don't drink and drive, but that could be your life. And especially in this city, I feel like there's so many crazy drivers where even if you are sober and driving safely, you can't control other people's ignorance, for sure, right? Yeah. So for me, I feel like self-awareness is also something that I'm working on, is just being aware. Like, don't judge people, don't push people down, but recognize the type of people you want to attract. And also just being self-aware, like, okay, Jane, if this is your manifestation, you want to be successful, you want to travel the world with like-minded individuals, maybe it's time to just reassess your social circle and the people you spend time with. So for you, do you have any mentors or people in your life that keep you out of trouble and keep you on the right path? Because I know a lot of people are doing life right now, recovering financially, recovering from the pandemic, and they don't have good people in their lives that are guiding them out of a dark place.
I definitely feel like my friends are my biggest support system. Like, I even have like a group chat with my 2 best friends, and the group chat is called Mamas, because we're all moms now. But I feel like I said, just my friends are the biggest supporter, and they're the people that, you know, if I'm ever down or need help or advice, they're always there to kind of help me, like, get myself back to where I need to be. And, you know, being able to be open and sharing with them too, that really helps. My boyfriend also, you know, it's a great support system and someone who I can always like go to if I feel like I'm not like aligned with myself. And he'll kind of like align me, you know what I mean? Like, not like check me, but like tell me like, you need to fix your attitude or whatever it is, you know? And then it makes me realize, because you don't want to hear that from anyone else, but you know, if you hear it from someone that you love and like someone close to you, like, I feel like it helps you realize like, I am doing something that I shouldn't be doing or whatever it is. So
yeah. And I really enjoyed getting to know your partner in crime as well. Like, he's so sweet. And I remember you saying one of your manifestation was just a kind, loving man, right? Supportive man. And even my first encounter, just, he's so real. And I know he's been in Vegas, he works in the industry. So just his, you know, groundedness, his humility, and just his ability to show up even for me was something I don't, like, it doesn't go unnoticed, right? And so I'm just very thankful that even through all the journeys that you've had, I'm sure we've all had bad relationships, it's such a good feeling to have a positive support system, even a group chat. Like I've been telling everybody, like community is everything. Even if it's one solid quality individual, that is better than 10 million toxic friends that are fake friends, right? So I do believe it's really empowering to have that go-to individual that you trust, that makes you feel safe for positive feedback. Because even myself, I'm not always patient or compassionate. So my partner will always kind of nudge me like, hey, Jane, don't assume like your way is always right. And don't assume like everyone should live like you. Everyone's got their own journey. So if somebody wants to live and move a certain way, if that is what makes them happy, do it. And so, you know, we have kind of a backwards life too, because we grew up very religious in the church. So, you know, my mother, God bless her, she's like, you need to get married. No vacation, no sleepover, nothing. Like, what? I'm a grown woman, you know, and, you know, it is what it is. So in my world, I had to get married before we figured out life. And so our joke is we live like college students because we're still figuring out life. So someone might say, well, Jane, you're married. How come you like have so much fun? Or how come you're out doing this and this and that? Or how come you don't have kids or whatever it might be? I'm like a firm believer. Do you, as long as you're not hurting anybody, do what makes you happy. Because I have a lot of girlfriends who might do it one way or this way, but who are we to judge anyone's way of life, right? Yeah. So I love that you got your shit together. You know, you have a beautiful, healthy family. And, you know, I'm just excited to see you elevating, not just with your business, but I've been a super nanny. So just even watching your baby girl grow up selfishly, my husband's like, stay away from kids. You touch them, that's how you get one. I'm like, I don't think so, but I love babies as well. I just love being able to nurture kids there. But, you know, for younger people or people watching and listening, what would you advise in terms of, you know, cutting out toxicity? Because I know we talked about manifestation. I know we talked about, you know, having a little friend group, having a positive support. How the heck do you cut out toxic people? Because sometimes I'm getting way better now, but last year I was such a people pleaser. And again, I have like childhood abandonment issues. So I'd rather sit next to the devil than be alone. Not anymore, but I was just so obsessed with being around people. I couldn't let go. So like, how did you get to that place where you're like, okay, you know what? You're not good for me. I have to step away.
I feel like definitely focusing on yourself and not other people and like pleasing other people. That's why toxic people stay, is because you're allowing them to be in your life and you're allowing them to be toxic to you. You're allowing them to, you know, bring you down or whatever it is. So I feel like definitely realigning yourself and like realizing, what do I need to make myself happy? And like, what do I need to, you know, be healthier or whatever. And so like, for example, becoming a mom, you know, I don't feel like I cut off the toxic people, but I definitely stopped hitting those people up because my like life morals had changed and like my priorities had changed. So I feel like, you know, there's never an easy way to cut people off, but once you have those life changes, like they kind of just drift off and, you know, you save yourself from having to be like, hey, I don't want to be your friend anymore. But once you like change yourself, like those people will drift off too, you know? So yeah, I think that's the best example.
No, and that's very powerful too, because when I started my podcast and then I launched my candle business, I'm sure people are watching like, what the heck are you doing with your life? A candle business? And I'm like, no, I wanted to create something safe, clean, you know, especially for breathing every day. Like, I don't want toxic chemicals. And, you know, you're a mom, you got a kid and then kids down the road. So I remember, you know, like you mentioned, I remember just tuning inward and working on inner healing and remembering like, Jane, what brought you joy? Because when you're in this dark hole of people pleasing and doing for others, and it could be childhood trauma and also growing up with Asian parents that just didn't give you a certain validation. I lived for being validated. Like I go out, I party, I host parties, and they would make me feel so good. But really, they didn't give a crap about me. They got their free drinks and their free food. Peace out. Yeah. Like when I broke my foot or I lost a job, it's like, you think they came knocking on my door with flowers? Hell no. So in that moment, I realized, Jane, if you don't check in with yourself and you don't, you know, take care of yourself, don't expect anyone else. They're not your mom. They're not going to clean after you. They're not going to take you to the ambulance when you get hit by a car. Like, it sounds dramatic, but I learned the hard way like you do need to make sure you check in with yourself and make sure you know what you deserve. Because toxic people, they're never going to guide you to a healthier space. Like as long as they get theirs, they're just there for a moment in time. So, you know, for you, what are things that you do to practice self-care, and what are things that bring you joy? Because we're all in this like hustle grind mentality right now where it's like new year, new me, let's get this money, let's manifest and do it all. But there's this huge, you know, percentage too right now where even though it's just the beginning of a new year, people are still burnt out. There's like this residual weight of last year. And again, bringing up the pandemic time, it's still traumatic. So what do you do to tap into those moments of like, okay, today is all about Janis. I don't want to be, responsible. But what's like your favorite way of self-care and tapping into that like childlike joy?
I definitely do a lot of self-care. So that's even like getting facials and like getting massages, getting my nails done. Like I feel like that's my way of self-care. And I love that because I mean, I'm in the beauty industry. So I love being pampered. And so it just gives me time, especially like away from my baby, even though I don't want to be away from her, but mom needs a break, you know? So that's always my time to kind of be by myself and like recollect my thoughts. And that's when I do a little work, you know, by myself too, like when I'm getting my nails done or whatever. With facials and massage, of course, you can't really, you know, realign things, but it's nice to just kind of like zone out and like just remind myself like this is for you, and like taking care of my body and going to the gym. I've been doing that a lot too, so that's been really helpful with, you know, taking care of myself. And you know, I'm trying to get that postpartum body like out of here, so you know, just making myself healthy or taking care of myself so I can be healthier is, you know, how I kind of get back into there.
No, I love that. And, you know, I think you posted it today or earlier this morning, but it was a picture of like your cute body and your beautiful, you know, sweet body. And I remember just like thumbs up or giving it a heart and sending you a little encouragement. But I don't know if you even recognized you did this, but you showed just like acceptance and body love. I know we haven't heard that word in a while. It usually comes around spring and summer, right? Everyone's like, body love, love your body no matter what. But man, it's just, I hope you take time to also celebrate the journey, because again, I'm not a mom, but I know that the things I share even with you and another friend, Lala, who just had a baby, like for me, I treat people the way I want to be treated. I encourage and speak to people the way I want to be spoke to. So even you just posting that body photo, I'm just like, good for you. You know, you said something like you're not where you are where you want to be, but just celebrating the progress.
Yeah.
And I'm like, good freaking for you, because so many people, including me, we have moments of insecurity where we compare ourselves, right? Yeah. Like, oh, I wasn't the same body when I was 20. Well, obviously, like God didn't create your body to look from a baby to a teenager to puberty to, you know, young 20s to 30s and beyond. It's just, this is all part of a beautiful chapter and a phase of just, you know, maturity. Like you don't want to always have a girl body, but to be a woman, right? I think that's so cool. But if you don't mind sharing as well, what is postpartum like? And maybe I just haven't been able to see you enough to see it, but I don't see any signs of it. So good job. But I know it's a real thing. And I'm very OCD about body image based off how I was raised, but I'm sure I would freak out like leaving the house or wearing something that shows a lump or flabs that I never had. So, you know, I would be guilty, Janis, if I were to be like, oh, well, I'm just going to be positive. It's like, no, fuck that. I feel so insecure. But like, how do you cope with, you know, body changes and postpartum? Because I don't see signs. Like you do so good.
I mean, in the beginning, I definitely posted a lot about my body and like how I was, you know, just didn't feel like myself. Now I don't post as much, which I feel like I need to, or I should post a little bit to just be more real and raw. But it definitely is behind the doors, like how I feel about my body. Like my boyfriend gets it the most. Poor him. But I mean, it's definitely a crazy experience because you're always doubting yourself. You're always thinking negative about your body. And living here in Vegas, I mean, you know how it is. It's everyone in bikinis and, you know, everyone that looks like you live here because you look good, basically, you know? So that's was definitely hard for me just to kind of accept that, you know, my body is changing, but I always have to remind myself, like, I just gave birth. Like, it's only been, I counted 20 weeks and 2 days that I gave birth. So, you know, it's just like a gentle reminder that, you know, I just gave birth to a 10-pound baby that, you know, it's going to take time. And like, same with you, like, I want like that instant, you know, gratification, whatever. And everyone knows with working out, you can't get instant gratification, but also just, you know, reminding myself that I did something amazing, you know. But I mean, it's definitely real out there. Like, you get crazy thoughts in your head, and like, as much as my boyfriend and my friends like compliment me, like, it's not gonna be enough because they're not like living in their body. So I don't know.
No, and thank you for sharing too, because again, people watching and listening, whether they're a mom or a new mom or planning to be a mom, I think the reality and sharing reality is very healthy, because one of my therapists, she always teaches me just emotional intelligence and just being mentally prepared. It's like you can prepare, but only so much. But I know a lot of my triggers and trauma comes from the lack of truth being exposed to me, right? Even adulting, even marriage. I try to be very blunt with people if they ask, like, hey, Jane, what is marriage like? Or what is it like to move to a new state? I'm very blunt now. I used to be like, oh, you know, just go move around. You figure it out. You make great friends. Life is great. Now I'm like, listen, you're going to make big sacrifices. Even if you are popular, even if you are a social butterfly, you have to accept there's going to be moments it's very lonely. People will misunderstand you, mistreat you, judge you for no reason. And so the reality is, speaking your truth is what makes people heal, and it makes people closer to you. And that's something that I wanted everyone to know, is it's okay to be imperfect. It's okay to have flaws. And it's also okay to not be where you want to be. Because I love acting cocky because I played golf and grew up with a lot of boys, but even my dude sees it all the time. Like, you know, I'm not pregnant, but it's like I'm self-doubting, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you know, should I get fake boobs? Should I get surgery? You know, should I get hair extensions? Because that's what everybody else is doing. And I'm like, I'm a tomboy and I'll always be a tomboy, but that's why people fall in love with me, is I'm actually not stuck up or arrogant. I'm just a freaking goofy person that learned to just embrace herself, because God created you to be uniquely you. So if I wanted to look like everybody else, I just defeated the point of working so hard and doing the healing and figuring out who I am. So, you know, insecurity is real. Postpartum is real as well. You know, I know we talked about pampering yourself and whatnot, but is there literal tangible tools that you could advise for new moms out there, or maybe mothers who are freaking out, right? They found out they're pregnant, freaking out. I mean, I might call you, hopefully give me 10 more years, but I might call you and be like, Janis, you lied to me. This is awful. I want to eat everything. I'm getting fat. Because the reality is, when you're used to looking a certain way, feeling a certain way, I know even hair loss is a real thing. I'm losing hair from stress, but I'm healing, don't worry. But yeah, I was just literally stressing myself from a toxic chapter last year and literally losing hair. And I'm like, I don't want to even go out anymore. I don't want to even take selfies. I might as well go pay Facetune to add more hair and fix my face. But what would you advise, like, moms to be and new moms who are just stuck right now, just like hating the way they look, hating life, or even just afraid to be a mom?
Yeah, I mean, just know that our body is made to do this. That's what I keep reminding myself. Like, even though we're not happy with our body, like, our body went through so much that men cannot do. So it's amazing that we can birth a child and like grow a child inside our bodies, right? So I feel like just a reminder that we're made to do this, and that no one else in the world can do this. Like, no men can do this, only us women. That's what makes us so powerful. And just seeing your baby, like, if you have your child already, seeing your baby, or even on like the ultrasound, you're like, just seeing your child, it makes you forget about everything else. And that's why like, it helps with the postpartum when I look at her, when I look at my daughter, because you just forget that, you know, that I have this body and like, I don't feel 100%. I don't look like how I used to, because now that I'm like a mom, like I look the way I am because I gave an amazing, like birth to an amazing child. So just reminding yourself, you know, that is what made you, like you made this thing. So
yeah, no, and it still trips me out too, because again, growing up tomboy with guys, I'm like, how does this even happen? Right? Like if you really break it down, for us to even have the ability to create a life, like you don't find that crazy?
Yeah, I said that multiple times.
Like I know we normalize it. We're like, what are you talking about, Jane? Like, yes, women have babies. I'm like, no, really break it down though. It's incredible that we as a human can create another human. Like that's crazy.
It's crazy. I wrote about it so many times when I was pregnant. I have like all these stories that I wrote, like, so amazing that we can do this. And it's, I mean, it is. It's wild.
Now, would you say juggling work is healthy as a mom? Because I have this weird perspective, because I'm such a workaholic right now. If I were to have a kid, because I'm a little OCD and perfectionist, I'm like, oh, I feel guilty going back to work. Maybe I should stop work and just be a full-time mom. Tell me a little bit about just like how it is transitioning, because you bounce back very quick. I was actually shocked. I'm like, didn't you just have a kid and now you want content for your social media for your business? But tell me a little bit about that dynamic though, like more of the emotional side of having a kid and not feeling guilty to go back to work.
So I'm crazy. I went back to work a month after I gave birth and I had a C-section. So it was looking back, I'm like, what the heck was I thinking? But I'm also a business owner. So if anyone is a business owner, you know that you don't get benefits. You don't get, you know, what's called maternity leave. So I had to get back to work. And plus I made sure I was good enough to go back to work, like healthy enough. But I don't work as much as I used to. So that's a pro and a con. Pro because I get to spend more time with my baby. A con is because you're not going to make as much money as you used to, right? But, you know, just trying to figure out that balance of, you know, working enough for you and like for yourself, and also not overworking where you're like tiring yourself. And then if I'm going to be too tired to work, I'm going to start hating my job. So I don't want that to ever happen, for me to not want to go to work and like not enjoy what I'm doing. So, you know, I definitely limit myself. Like I only take maybe like 2 to 3 clients a day. One is good for me, but also just knowing that my baby's in good hands, that really helped with the mom guilt. I do miss her, don't get me wrong, like when I'm not with her, but just knowing that like my boyfriend's watching her right now, and I know that, you know, he's going to take the best care of her. And when I was living in Portland for the first 3 months while I was, or after birth, my stepdad and my mom were the caretakers along with my boyfriend too. But I just knew that she was in good hands and that I didn't have to worry. You know what I mean? So I think that helped a lot. And I do definitely like feel, you know, bad for and sad for the moms that are single and like that don't have, you know, the support. And I've always said that ever since after I gave birth. I'm like, I don't know how they do it. Like, you know, if I didn't have my family and my boyfriend, like I would definitely be, you know, very broken. But that's also what made them super strong too. So definitely give kudos to all the single moms out there.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And like I said, I can only imagine what that's like. And especially modern day, just the reality is, even if it's just a little bit of side hustle, 2 people need to make income, right? Just the cost of living is going up. So I really admire that you just jumped right back in, because I remember seeing like a baby post and then you're working. I'm like, wait a minute, what's going on here? But if you don't mind me asking, with your plans for business and all that, I know you have a couple locations. Tell me a little bit more about the locations of your business, what services you provide, and also, you know, what you're looking forward to in your businesses as well.
So I have a shop in Clackamas, Oregon, which is actually where I grew up. It's like literally 10 minutes away from my dad's house. So it's kind of awesome to make a full circle back to my hometown. I have two amazing lash artists with me there, and then I also have another renter, and she's amazing at doing brows too. Um, have that, and unfortunately had to move, so I had to leave my shop. I'm still working there every other month, so I go back to Oregon very often. Still keeping the shop. That's like my first baby and my first pride and joy. So definitely not letting that go for a while, but future plans, I definitely hopefully want to open something here. It is a lot of work though, so I'm kind of like going back and forth, like, do I want something big again? Like, do I want to just do like have a small studio? But I definitely feel like my calling is to expand again. And now that I have a business partner, it's really going to help build like a better, business, and like, a stronger relationship, especially with like the beauty community. So hopefully there's going to be a second location by like the end of the year next year. I don't know.
Yeah.
Everything's unpredictable now with the baby, but that's one of my next goals in life, is to have, another location to be able to also train people and help other people, make money and love what they do and become successful.
No, and I love that too, Janis, because I know even from personal experience, I went to esthetician school after college, and I'm thinking, man, could I make a career out of this? And I wish I met you earlier, because I wanted somebody that I could, be a mentor under and be guided. And I know, again, you have such a nurturing spirit. So anybody that has the opportunity to meet you, whether it's like a one-on-one class or getting services from you, I feel like you are really in the right industry, because we do need more humble beauty leaders. And, I've worked for many brands I don't want to name, but it was very catty. It was very just jealousy. And if you were really talented or maybe gifted with people, it wasn't really like family vibes. It was almost like everybody's just out for themselves. But I've seen you work with people, and I understand that you do a good job just checking in and making sure everyone's good. So, for anyone listening and watching, if they're interested in permanent makeup or learn about brows, lashes, lips, all that, I know that I can send them to you. And, I'm really excited to see your business expand as well. And I want to obviously be a part of that, whether it's content creation, being a model for you, whatever it might be, because we do need more positive business owners, especially in the city of Vegas. I feel like a lot of people, again, preach positivity, preach community, but you don't really feel it in their presence, right? Or even work ethic. They say, oh, I'll do this, I'll do that, I'll work hard. But are they doing, the work? Are they showing up? So I feel like you're creating a space where a lot of entrepreneurs, go-getters like myself too, like you're giving them an opportunity to learn, but also make money and create their own schedule. So for those listening in right now that are interested in beauty, why should they get into the industry of permanent makeup, lashes, even lips? Why should they get into that or start a career in that?
Well, first, definitely have the passion for it. I've trained many people, and some people find out that's not their passion later on, and that's okay. But I definitely feel like this industry is growing. It's, you're making people happy. You're creating like a beautiful eyebrow, lip, eyeliner, and eyelashes for them. And like, I feel like what's more like better than that? It's like help support other women to make them feel better, help them feel better. And you know what? Sometimes we're like their therapist too. And I like that a lot, where they can come to us. Like when they come to our shop, it's like their safe space. And I feel like everyone has a chance to like be nurturing and be like someone's therapist, because we all need one, whether you realize it or not. And like with the passion too, like as long as you have the passion for it, like you are going to be successful, and you are going to, not always about the money, but it kind of is, so as long as you have the passion for it, it's gonna, help you succeed, and, you can change lives.
Oh, I love that. And, at this moment in time, are you looking for any service providers, or, how can this Vegas community support you as well?
I actually, so when me and my friend Jan are going to open a shop, we actually don't want to have like employees or like service providers. We want to just have partners and renters, because I want you guys to become everyone to be their own boss, you know? Like with my lash girls right now in Portland, like I'm building them up so that they can be confident enough to be on their own. And I think that's what we want to here in Vegas, is more so have like apprentices and just help them become their own boss. But in the near future, maybe when we have a bigger shop, that might be something we'll be looking for. Yeah. So
no, I actually love your answer. It was kind of a trick question because I know even myself, I'm like a free spirit butterfly. Mm-hmm. Like people ask like, what do you do? I'm like, I would sum it up in a nutshell. I'm a content creator and a podcast host, but my husband will tell you I'm actually a great photographer as well. I love public speaking. I like makeup, hair, lashes, brows. So, you know, what you shared right there is gold, because a lot of people are searching to, you know, go under somebody or do training, but ultimately not be afraid to have the confidence to build their own business. So I actually love your answer, and it's making me very inspired to maybe learn some things from you too. Yeah. But I think, you know, ownership is important, but also being responsible for your own success. I know I sound like kind of a brat for saying that, but ultimately we can provide the course, the tools, the education, but each individual, you have to get after it, right? We could be like, this is how you do a beautiful brow, or this is how you contour the lip. But I do believe in this life too, you get what you put in. Same with wealth, same with health. You have to take the time and the initiative to say, you know what, my health is a priority, and creating wealth or multiple streams of income is also something that is important to me. So I'm going to put it as a priority. So for you, would you say having multiple streams of income and maybe a bunch of side hustles is the way, or just one job and sticking to that? Because times have changed.
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely not bad to have multiple side hustles. I know there's that saying, you were saying it the other day too, jack of all trades is a king to none. I feel like that's very untrue, because, you know, our passions change, our dreams change, there's life changes. So you could fall in love with something else and fall out of love of, you know, what you were doing, and that's okay. And you know, I don't really have like multiple side hustles right now, but hopefully in the near future, like I will, which will be more like investments. So I feel like that's definitely something that everyone should look into, is investments. And, you know, there's so many things, like I wish we could live forever, honestly, because there's like with you, like you're doing so many things, and like, I wish I had the time to do all those things too. But once you have a kid, you might.
I know. I'm like, give me a couple years and then we'll talk. Yeah. I'll be like, Janis, how the heck did you do all this and have a child? But, you know, even adding to what you're sharing, it's important to also have goals and to, you know, things to move towards. I mean, even your passion to say like, I wish life could be longer. Like, that's so fun and childlike, because so many people want to end their life, or they don't want to keep going. They have nothing to look forward to. So part of my sanity is making sure, like, yes, I do 10 million things, but I actually enjoy them. So, you know, some people, maybe they were blessed to have the vision to do one thing. Like I have a friend who's a teacher, and all she did was go to school, be a teacher. She's a principal now, and didn't even like waver. But curious people like myself, it's like I have to dabble, and then I figure out like what I really love. Yeah. And some people just have ADHD and they can't just sit still. So that's very much me. Even when I need a vacation or turn it off, I'm like, ooh, how should I take this photo, or what content can I get? It's like, dude, I got to just like relax and disconnect, right? But speaking of investments, I want to get into a house in the near future. I want to be in a healthy place to invest in property, because I know that's the greatest and the quickest way to build wealth. And I believe you got to have good credit too. I am not there yet, okay? Yeah. But I remember your partner telling me about credit and all that stuff. Yeah. What the heck does he do? Because I when he said that word, I'm like, wait, I don't really know what you do, but I need you, because if I had good credit or knew what the heck I was doing about credit, I'd probably have multiple houses. But yeah, what does he do?
He's basically kind of like a financial advisor, credit advisor. So he'll, you know, go over your credit file and like let you know like what needs to be worked on, and like if there's any collections and that kind of stuff, and kind of guides you the next steps to how to kind of like get rid of that and pay things down or whatever. I don't know exactly what he does. I just know that he's really good at kind of guiding you where to go to get higher credit and better credit.
Perfect.
So.
Well, I'm going to have to connect with them. And I know a lot of people listening and watching, they're like, oh, crap, credit.
Yeah.
I should probably work on that, because right now in our culture, we talk about, again, hustling, getting money, getting rich quick, but we're not having conversations around credit, debt, learning how to manage money. So I want to make sure I connect with him too about that. And I know a lot of people could utilize his knowledge as well, because even people who think they know what to do, I don't think we do. We're just kind of winging it and guessing. And, you know, I wish people taught you about money management and credit building younger.
In like
but nobody
high school
teaches
or
you that,
something.
right?
Yeah.
Same with just basic adulting. I'm like, what a nightmare. I'm all about daydreaming. So if you were to explain to me where this house would be, again, we're going into manifestation now, what it would sound like, what neighborhood you see it, even like your daughter playing in the background, where would you live? I mean, obviously not down to the zip code, but like the way it looks, the way it feels, what would that look like for you?
I definitely want to move to California someday. That was actually my goal, like before I moved back to Vegas. And before I actually settled back in Oregon, I resettled there for 4 years and not realizing it. But California is definitely in our, you know, dreams, in our future. That's where his parents live. So it'll be, you know, better for the grandparents to see the grandbaby. And also I want to live in more of a suburban area. Like I've always grown up in suburbs. So I just feel like it's more safe, and, you know, you can really build relationships with your neighbors. And like, I love like just having that community, like activities and all those stuff. And I want that, because we had that back when I lived with my dad. Like we were all friends with the neighbors, all the kids played with each other. And I want that for my daughter too. So definitely want to move to California someday, be close to the grandparents, and just kind of like put her in a good neighborhood so she can have a good education and be surrounded by good people too.
Well, maybe one day.
Yeah.
I will join you, because I'm from Orange County, California originally. And I always tell people that's why I like to dress like Crazy Rich Asians. Just I love Cali just in general, not just the city, but like you mentioned, the suburban feel, being able to go to the park, go into the ocean, and just having more like grounded family time, right?
Yeah.
Having a picnic at the beach. Like that just sounds so good. And I think it's important to, you know, live in the now, be present, but also think long term. So, you know, as far as even your life journey, it's truly incredible, right? You were sharing about your life as an import model, the car scene, traveling in the world, meeting incredible people, you know, having experiences that maybe we as young kids that are broke and not from money would never experience. And even becoming a mom, and your journey of opening up all these awesome, you know, shops that you don't want to give up on. And then, of course, being a new mom. I think those are things that I can just, I don't know, like I applaud you for doing all of this. Yeah, it's like sometimes you have to talk it out loud to, you know, reminisce and reflect and be like, wow, Janis, like you really have done so much.
Yeah.
And so for you to be here and still have so much more to do, like what a fun place to be.
Yeah.
So, you know, this year too, what are something that you're just excited for? Like, I don't like to be cheesy and say, all right, what's your 2023 goals? But what are you excited for this year? Like, what can we expect from you this year?
I'm excited to kind of being back here and like rebuilding who I am here. I mean, I definitely lost myself a little bit as a mom. And, you know, before I was a mom, I was like this social person that was always partying, always like planning things and always traveling. And so this year, you know, I really wanted to focus on rebuilding myself and like who I really am, like as a mom now. And like, yes, I may party here and there, but kind of in a more balanced way. And just kind of, you know, I'm excited to, you know, also my career, you know, just kind of letting everyone know that I'm here and I'm back kind of thing, you know? So
no, and I'm super excited for that. And just know that like we're here to support you. People listening and watching, I'm sure they're thinking, oh, she's so sweet. Maybe I want to go learn what she does or be a partner, you know? And I think at the end of the day, the city has so many opportunities. It's so easy to connect with great people. And I have to remind myself, it's all about just divine timing, right? It's all about meeting the right people at the right time. So I'm super excited. You have my support, and anything that you might need, you let me know. And I'm very thankful that you were on this podcast as well. I always like to close every episode with 3 life lessons you would tell your younger self. Because I'm sure she wasn't as wise and beautiful as you are now.
I actually was asked this on my Instagram a couple months ago. One is save money. And I think the second was don't let boys distract you. That was a life lesson for sure. And to focus on you, you know, like don't worry about everyone else, what they're thinking. Focus on what makes you happy.
I love that. Yeah. I needed those reminders too. Yeah. That's so good. But thank you so much for sharing your story. I can't wait to have you back. And I want updates on how mommy life is, the business, and what travel plans you have this year. So thank you so much for visiting. And thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in. This was a great conversation about so many things that we can all relate to. And if you want to learn more about Janis, her business plans, and she's just an amazing, humble human. And also, if you want to work on your credit, she got a dope dude that will help you, because I know I'm going to need some help. So be smart with your money, be positive, continue to manifest, and more importantly, protect your peace. And we will catch you on the next episode, and keep shining your light. Thanks, guys.